Sylvester Stallone, the man who refused to give up. Have you ever felt like the world was against you? Like no matter how hard you tried, every door kept closing in your face? Have you ever been so broke that you had to choose between eating and chasing your dreams? Sylvester Stallone did. And instead of giving up, he fought back. Hard. This is the unbelievable true story of how he went from a struggling actor who couldn't even afford food to one of the most legendary movie stars in history. A story of pain, rejection, and heartbreak, turned into one of triumph, resilience, and unstoppable determination. If you've ever felt like life was beating you down, this is the story you need to hear. Number 10. Birth injury left his face partially paralyzed. From the very moment Sylvester Stallone entered this world, life hit him with a challenge. Due to complications during birth, doctors used forceps that accidentally severed a nerve in his face. This left him with permanent paralysis in parts of his mouth and tongue, giving him a slurred speech and a drooping lower lip. This wasn't just a cosmetic issue, this was an immediate barrier to his dreams. When he later tried to become an actor, casting directors constantly rejected him because of his strange voice and appearance. But Stallone refused to let something he had no control over define his future. Number 9. Grew up in a rough childhood. Life at home wasn't easy. His parents had a rocky relationship, full of arguments and tension. His father was often harsh and distant, and his mother had her own struggles. This created an unstable and sometimes hostile environment for young Stallone. On top of that, he was bullied as a child. Kids teased him for his slurred speech and unusual looks. Instead of finding comfort at home or at school, Stallone was left to fend for himself, learning early on that the only person he could truly rely on was himself. But in that pain, something was growing inside him, a fighter's mentality. Number 8. Struggled in school. Because of his difficult home life and lack of support, Stallone struggled academically. Teachers dismissed him as a troublemaker. He was expelled from multiple schools due to his poor behavior and low grades. Some teachers even told him outright that he would never amount to anything. By the time he reached high school, he had attended over 10 different schools. But despite these academic failures, Stallone knew deep inside that he was meant for something greater. The traditional school system couldn't see his potential, but one day, the world would. Number 7. Faced countless rejections in Hollywood. Stallone had one dream, to be an actor. But Hollywood didn't see him as a leading man. Casting directors took one look at him and turned him away. "Your face is too strange. You sound weird. You'll never be a star." He faced countless rejections while searching for acting jobs. Time and time again, he was told that he simply didn't have the right look or voice for movies. Most people would have given up. But Stallone, he kept showing up. He knew that he didn't have to fit Hollywood's mold. He just had to create his own path. Number 6. Lived in poverty. His struggle wasn't just emotional, it was physical. Stallone was beyond broke. He was so poor that at times, he couldn't afford to eat. He lived in a tiny, run-down apartment, and there were nights he had to sleep at a bus station because he had nowhere else to go. At one point, his financial situation got so desperate that he couldn't even afford heating in his apartment. He had to burn furniture just to stay warm. But even at rock bottom, he never abandoned his dream. Number 5. Had to sell his dog. For Stallone, his best friend in the world was his beloved dog, Butkus. But he was so broke that he had no choice but to sell his dog for $25 just to afford food. Imagine the pain of handing over the only companion you have left because you simply can't afford to take care of him. It was one of the hardest moments of his life, but he promised himself, "This isn't the end of my story." Number 4. Refused to sell Rocky without starring in it. While struggling to get acting roles, Stallone started writing. One day, after watching a Muhammad Ali fight, he got an idea. He locked himself in a room and in just 3 days, he wrote the first draft of Rocky. Hollywood loved the script, but they didn't want him to play Rocky. They offered him $360,000 for the script alone, a life-changing amount of money. But Stallone refused. He was determined to star in his own story, no matter what. Studio executives told him, "You are not a leading man." But he didn't care. He turned down the money, even though he was broke, because he believed in himself more than anyone else did. Number 3. Started Rocky with almost no budget. After relentless negotiations, the studio finally agreed to let him star in Rocky, but with a tiny budget. He had almost no money for professional actors or sets. So what did he do? He got his real-life friends and family to act in the film. Even Butkus, his dog, was cast in the movie, after he bought him back for $15,000. Against all odds, Rocky was filmed. And when it was released in 1976, it became a worldwide phenomenon. The movie won 3 Academy Awards and turned Stallone into an overnight sensation. Number 2. Faced career downfalls. After the success of Rocky and Rambo, Stallone had the world at his feet. But fame is never permanent. He faced several box office failures that nearly ruined his career. The industry started calling him a washed-up action star. But instead of quitting, he reinvented himself. He came back stronger with The Expendables and later with Creed, proving to the world that he was far from done. Number 1. Overcame personal tragedy. The greatest battle of his life wasn't in a boxing ring, it was in his heart. In 2012, Stallone faced the devastating loss of his son, Sage Stallone. It was a tragedy that could have broken him completely. But despite his grief, he continued working, inspiring, and proving that no matter how painful life gets, you have to keep moving forward. Life will hit you hard. But like Stallone, you have a choice. Will you stay down? Or will you fight back? Because as Rocky himself said, it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. So if you're struggling right now, keep fighting. Your breakthrough might be just around the corner. So the next time life knocks you down, remember this story. Stand back up. Keep fighting. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs motivation, and subscribe for more amazing stories. See you in the next one.